Those that noped out of a relationship. What was your, they're probably crazy, red flag moment? I've got a recent one. We'd only been talking for a few days, so at this point there's no commitment. Or anything, really. Beyond a confirmed mutual interest. Immediately I noticed she was getting a bit clingy and that she wanted to talk on the phone several times a day. So I'm already in established boundaries mode right off the bat. Anyway, I was walking home from the store. It just started raining and my phone battery was almost gone. I had just enough charge left to listen to an audiobook, but not enough for a phone call. This is when she calls me. I begin to explain that I'm walking in the rain and my battery's gone and that I'll call her when I get home. I didn't get to finish the sentence because she starts with, "Look, if you don't want to talk to me, just say it and quit wasting my time." Oh no, you freaking didn't just lay a guilt trip on me for being soaking wet and miserable on the side of the road with a battery that was far out. I shot back with, "Don't you even start that crap with me or I'll never speak to your bum again." She hung up. That sealed the deal. The battery did in fact get drained on the way home. I logged into Facebook and there's already 3 messages from her. The first one is angry. The next is apologetic and the third one is promising never to start drama again. I just blocked her. I checked the phone and there's a bunch of similar texts. She kept texting a few days after that and eventually gave up. I didn't read any of them. Word to the wise, if there are 2 ways to interpret your motives and someone always chooses the interpretation that leads to drama, get the heck away. There's no winning in that situation. And that's how it always goes with people like that. If you're the trusting sort like me, the tendency is to take their complaints at face value and try to make things better the next time. It'll never happen. I've wasted a lot of time on people like that, and I was pretty proud of myself for finally recognizing those head games inside and putting a stop to it immediately. I really don't know what goes on inside those heads. Story 2. Technically, we weren't in a relationship. We were supposed to be working together on a creative project. He just liked to pretend we were complete strangers, and I didn't realize he was doing that until I finally got him out of my life. There were many red flags, but I was a very sheltered and naive girl, so most of them were shrugged off. Looking back now, I shudder. So aside from the whole pretending I was his girlfriend thing, there was also the long-distance relationship he had with an Indonesian girl that was clearly exploitative. He was nearly 30. She was terrified of him because of the stuff he talked about all the time. All of the books, comics, and films he liked had huge amounts of violence towards women. He worshipped Frank Miller. When I scrambled to fix artwork that he had screwed up before a deadline, he left me stranded in a city I had never been to before after midnight during an active threat. He was supposed to pick me up, but instead, the police did because everyone in the city had gone indoors. Engineered many situations for us to share a bed. Was visibly annoyed when I found somewhere else to sleep. Talked a lot about my body to random people, including potential customers. Bragged that I was using low-cut tops to bring in sales. I wasn't. I was practically Amish in how I dressed at the time. Had a massive hate for his best friend's wife, who was always lovely to me. Talked about their intimate life in excruciating detail. All relationships he had while I knew him were with vulnerable women way out of his league. They tended to break up with him after meeting me because I showed actual interest in their lives, and he got very grabby with them in front of me. I got in the way with him hard without realizing it. Introduced me to his best friend, a 50-year-old smackhead with a Doctor Who obsession who treated him with open contempt and propositioned me twice. We spent days in his house where he smoked nonstop. I must have been coming home stinking of the stuff. I don't know how or why my parents didn't pick up on it. Walked in on me changing so many times I lost count. Accidentally left something in the DVD player and let it play for quite some time before switching it off. It was probably Wolf Otherkin, obsessed with being the lone wolf and the big bad wolf. Confessed his feelings to a mutual friend the day after she turned legal. Hated every aspect of Asian culture except for its submissive women. Reacted to me cutting him out of my life by leaving the country. Has not been back since, as far as I know. That's what I can remember off the top of my head. There's probably more. Story 3. She was the biggest case of been there, done that I've seen so far. Retired military of 12 years, deployed multiple times to all the popular places. Full-time nurse, part-time EMT. Full-time college student, master's degree for nursing. Mother, went to college for super cool computer hacky stuff only possible in movies. Currently in litigation. Owns her own business, photography, and has at least 2 workers, but she'll still do shoots herself. Has a social life. Only a couple of those can be or have been easily explained, such as she shared custody of her daughter or that college classes aren't running right now, but some of those just weren't adding up in my mind, and all evidence started pointing to run bro real quick. One example is she showed me her business Facebook page and started saying how this number is 2 million views and that 34 is 34 million views. And it was plain as day, just 3,400. On top of that, she has an event set up with only one person attending. My first thought was, How is one person attending with 34 million page views? Better yet, how does she only have 2 workers with those numbers? Or how is there that many page views in a town of only 70,000 per 2016 census? This is just one example, and I seriously doubt she was talking herself up in an attempt to impress me. Delusions of grandeur. Yep. Story 4. He had kind of been a jerk the whole relationship. Couldn't take the blame for anything. Tried convincing me that my parents didn't love me. Told me who I couldn't hang out with. Told what I could and couldn't wear. And I would only go to his house because he felt discriminated against in my house due to the fact that my parents hated him. In retrospect, for very good reason. Then on our 7-month anniversary, he proposed to me in his dirty car in a mall parking lot on the bad side of town. My reaction was kind of like my life flashing before my eyes before passing, except it was my future. I saw snippets of a crappy, sad, cruel future with him, so I flat out said no. Took the ring from his hands, shoved it in his center console, and told him to take me home. He was livid. That's when it got scary, and fast. Instead of driving me back home, he drove to the neighborhood nearest mine and started driving through the cul-de-sacs at 45 miles per hour, punching his steering wheel and spewing obscenities at me. I told him over and over again, take me home, damn it, but he wouldn't. It was mortifying. Finally, after an hour of sheer terror, he parked at the empty lot at the end of my street and asked me what was going to happen. For the last time, I told him he was going to take me the heck home. So he roared up my street crying and yelling, and as soon as I busted his car door open, he tried to pull me back in. He was much larger and stronger than itty-bitty me, and he was using all his strength to force me back inside, and I was using all of mine to get away. I knew that if I got back inside that car, I would never get back out alive. All the way to my garage, he was following me, crying, forcing his arms around me to pull me back into his car. I don't know how, but by the grace of high powers, I was able to pry away from him, open my garage and close it with him on the other side, punching the door as it went down. A month later, I noped the heck to the other side of the country. I blocked him and his crappy family on every social media site and blocked the numbers too. He had told me he would end me if I ever tried to leave him, and that night easily could have been it. Story 5. We were not in a relationship, thank God, but after the first date I had a weird feeling. 2 red flags stood out. He was slightly irritated to learn that I was in my 30s even though he was 40. As in, was irritated I was not younger. I look much younger than I am. Not angry, irritated, but you could tell he was slightly disappointed. Then, when I mentioned how I used to be incredibly gullible and naive, he took quite an interest in that. Too much of an interest. So that night after I got home, I Googled him but couldn't find anything. Talked to my upstairs neighbor about him and showed her a picture. Lucky for me, she knew who he was because he went to school with her ex-husband. Turns out I couldn't find him because he gave me a fake last name. Looked him up using the correct name, and what I found made me sick to my stomach. Not only was he almost 10 years older than what he told me, but he also had 1 conviction and 2 arrests. Read the documents and their physical description matched mine to a T. Hair type, body type, etc. Noped out of that situation really freaking quick and told him never to contact me again. To his credit, he never did. Story 6. Told me she couldn't have a baby because something was wrong with her. I thought, oh well, that sucks, but whatever. Constantly asking me about baby-related stuff and how she really wants a baby even though she told me she can't. Started to wonder what was up at this point. Went on holiday for a month, came back and was still seeing or dating her and talking constantly, but she had blocked me on Facebook. Getting massive red flags at this point. Started acting altogether really weird. Asked her what was going on and that I just wanted her to be honest. Turned out she was pregnant, and now is a single mother. I think I dodged a bullet. Or like he dodged a cannonball. She blocked him on Facebook so she could lay the groundwork for his introduction as the father of that child. Anyway, since you're already here, please don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel, so you wouldn't miss out on any of my future uploads. Story 7. Had a brief thing with this girl who was in high school when I was in 8th grade. Found out shortly after she had a boyfriend of 3 years. I told her we couldn't continue, but if there was an issue with her boyfriend when it was dealt with, I would be open to dating her. Well, she never broke up with him and instead actively stalked me. She knew where I would skate at the time and she would hide in the woods and text me saying stuff like, "So you can't meet up with me, but you can skate with your friends at insert place here?" I blocked her on social media and ignored her calls and texts, and she continued to do so daily for about 3 months. Dodged a bullet. Slightly different, but this other girl I dated on and off for a year. This girl completely messed me up. She talked me to self-destruction because she was sick of hearing me complain. Keep in mind, I was in a really tough spot with my depression too. I was always cautious when I would date her again, but every time it was the same trap I fell for. The moment I would show I was interested in her, she would break up with me. The final straw was when she did that for probably the 6th time, and I knew I would fall for it again, so instead of trying to talk about feelings, I told her to bail out and punched a wall. Was it immature? Absolutely. But it got the job done. It ended it entirely and she never wanted to get back together. Unfortunately for me, she started a rumor that I was the emotionally and physically cruel one, and that I had mistreated her. I lost most of my friends and went from a popular guy to someone who is still to this day avoided like the plague. Even the friends I still have don't believe me entirely. They don't think she tried to talk me into self-harm, but they believe I'm not a defiler or evildoer. Reason why I'm sharing the second story is for anyone out there who spots a red flag, don't freaking ignore it. Story 8. My boyfriend and I talked early on about seeing other people while being together. I'm pretty monogamous, so I was very against that. It was strange to me as well, since I hadn't been saying no to him when he wanted to be intimate. It was like he just wanted to have it with whoever, and still have the romantic side with me. I don't think there's anything wrong with someone wanting it, but I told him it made me feel really uncomfortable. He said okay, we reached an agreement. Fast forward a few months later, and he brings it up again as if we never spoke about it before. He had downloaded an app and was apparently already looking on the side. I was upset. That's when I realized that neither of us were really wrong in our feelings. We just wanted different things. I know it could probably have been more open-minded, but I also don't believe polyamorous relationships work unless both people go in knowing that that is what they want. But also, what hurt me is he was going ahead with it, regardless of my feelings. He just decided it wouldn't hurt my feelings and licked a score. I asked for a break, and we were going to wait a week and just not see each other and live our lives as single and see how it went. Almost out of spite, I downloaded the same app, and there he was, looking right away. I ended it officially not long after. The worst part, I was blind to how single-minded he was about it. There were red flags that I pushed aside because I wanted it to work. He had accepted money for that before. That was a big one. A mutual friend of ours told me he had some mean nicknames for me behind my back. I felt like I was just a toy for him occasionally. It also shaped how I date now. I don't trust people who immediately get intimate. Like it's literally a deal breaker for me if someone makes those types of innuendos or comments before a first date or a long time speaking if it's long distance. I will not have it on the first date. It made me feel like a caricature of a 1950s man. I feel like I have to settle down with someone and get the white picket fence life because what I really want is stability. I'm not out of my 20s and I feel like I'm so different to all the people who want to have casuals because I'm put off by it so badly. And that's not a bad thing. Story 9. Like all decent people, when faced with signs of difficulty going on, I told myself I could handle it, support her through it, give her the security she needed to improve and the time and patience she wouldn't get from most people. So although I raised an eyebrow at how she seemed to believe anything at all, whilst doing the typical gap year student traveling and letting a stranger get with her, and how she said she had suddenly turned on someone she was hitching with and got out of the car in the middle of the Australian outback without knowing where she was or even carrying any water, I didn't worry too much about that. And to be honest, I was blinded by my own desire. She looked like the young Zooey Deschanel, but with Selma Hayek's body. And she was intelligent, with a sensitive, moral character. I really wanted to be with her, and she was intense. She shared every thought, texted me 100 times a day. It was easy to think she felt the same way too, for a while. So I still wanted to be with her despite telling me that she was ashamed of me. We had a large age difference and that I could never meet her friends or family. I still wanted to return when she asked me to walk around parked cars after a night with her, so her all-male flatmates wouldn't see me. We can work through this. I still wanted her when she said to me, "You know it's going to end you when I dump you. I need to find you someone else." I still wanted her when she would get manically depressed and her male colleagues took advantage and told her to dump me and be with them. When she was good, she was incredible, and I really wanted to believe. I still sort of wanted her when we booked a short holiday after minor surgery I had scheduled, and she dumped me again a few days before the hospital appointment. Asked we still go as friends but not change a single bed booking, and she started drifting around the road while driving and said to me, "Isn't it amazing when you start to see the lights in the road dancing around?" And then got furious with me when I demanded she pull over and take a rest because I was genuinely scared we were going to crash. I foolishly forgave her despite a following row over wanting to sit on the bed for a moment and rest because the stitch was hurting. And the movies I brought with me that she said she wanted to watch before we left, she now said she didn't and had always hated them. And then started hitting me as hard as she could with pillows, claiming she used to fight like this with her sister while I refused to raise a hand to her. I finally started to stop ignoring red flags when on a Christmas holiday she flirted badly with my brother and completely ignored me sitting next to her. The "nope, I'm the heck out now" moment came when she texted me to say an old university friend had written telling her she was his dream girl, and she wanted to know if she could do it. I said, "No, he's asking you to be exclusively his. Don't you care what you're doing to me?" And she said, "Well, can you outcompete him?" So I threw some ideas out that we'd often talked about, and suddenly ghosted for a day or so. When she got back in touch, she said she told him no, but I told her it was over. Except even nearly a year and a half later, it's not. She contacted my friends, she called my family. I told her to leave me alone, she wasn't respecting my needs. 6 months later, she sends a text hinting that her life isn't going well and she finally appreciates me. Thinking she was in trouble, I stupidly picked up her next call. She proceeds to tell me all about her new boyfriend she made maybe a month after we stopped talking. But I wish it was more like you. It doesn't do any of the great things you do. I ended up in tears. I text her the next day and ask if she understands what I said. She says, I need to focus entirely on him. I blocked her number. My line then gets tested numerous times by a withheld number. She continues to call my friend she asked for a threesome with. He doesn't have the courage to tell her it's not fair because, well, she's amazingly charming when she's new to you. On my birthday, she calls again. Eventually, I work out she's using her mother's business lines to get around call blocking. I tell her I don't even want to talk. She still keeps calling people who know me. Recently, I discovered she'd moved to another city, another flat full of men she's with, but that she's also switched jobs. She's working in care just like I do, to try and understand me better. I wonder if she'll understand what it's like to work 12 to 14-hour shifts with him, and then come out of work to a text that asks her to outcompete other women or she'll likely be dumped again. Probably not. She's not evil, but I never worked out what exact personality disorder she clearly has. But it wasn't one that responded to dedicated love and devotion. So for my own mental health's sake, she's permanently red flag. I miss her still, of course, at least the things she's told me because she wanted to make me happy. But I have no idea which of them were even really true. My feelings were, but still, red flag. Red flag. Yeah, red flag. Well, if you like these stories, here's more. YouTube thinks you're gonna love this. Catch you in that video.